Hey, what's going on, folks? It's Larry of Packmaster Dog Training here. You guys are sending me a lot of questions about puppy training. I guess because we're working with the puppy now and raising the puppy, Halo, our little German Shepherd puppy, for the soldier. So people want to know, what are we doing on a daily basis? I've done a couple of videos with him, nothing very extravagant, because at this stage there isn't a lot of going on. It's more about raising the dog properly than doing the type of training people wonder about, the obedience training and stuff. So I'll walk you through a day a little bit here and see if that clears up some of the things that we're talking about. Normally my puppies sleep, well, my dogs sleep in my room. They're on the floor. They sleep in my room. They're not crated at night once they are over a year old. So they sleep where they want. They tend to sleep. My dogs do sleep in my room. I've had one dog, Bear, our German Shepherd, always slept at the front door. He didn't sleep in the room with the other dogs. The rest of them sleep around the bed on the floor. With Halo, it's a little different. We're keeping him in the living room, right outside my bedroom door, close by. But you got to understand, guys, there's going to come a time where we have to give this dog up. And that's going to be very tough. It's going to be tough on the family. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we've never given a dog away before, but we knew what we were doing when we got into this. So, and to be fair to the dog, I want that tight bond with him, of course, like we have with all our dogs, but I got to think about the dog too. When we turn him over to that family, we have to have a very stable dog that's not so attached to me or my family that he suffers. So at this point, he sleeps in the living room in a crate, of course, right outside my bedroom. And he's fine with that. That's not a problem. He has slept through the night since the first day I brought him home. And I've never had a puppy do that before. And that's a beautiful thing. So the way my day starts, okay, I wake up usually around 5:30 in the morning. I get up. I take the puppy out first. I take Halo outside. I don't take him out with my other dogs. At this point, I do almost everything separate. I don't want him being a pain in the butt to the other dogs and being distracted by the other dogs or bonding really tight with the other dogs. I want him paying attention to me. So at this stage, he's 17 weeks old, I think, or 18 weeks old. I still do everything separate. Every now and then I let him out for, if I'm going to throw the ball for Buddy and Luke, I'll let him out to chase them around, okay? But everything is very structured as far as what he does with the other dogs. So around 5:30 in the morning, sometimes 6 o'clock, I go to his crate. I pick up a leash. I don't put a leash on him in the house. He's a puppy, so sometimes he'll get excited and pee. So for the people that ask me the same question, that your puppy pees every time you go to touch him or put the leash on, I could film that for you if you want to. Just send me some requests. So what I do is I pick up the leash, I go to his crate, I open the door, I don't make any contact with him. I don't pay attention to him, I don't talk to him. I open the door and I walk all the way down the hallway to my garage door, to the door that leads to the garage. He knows the routine, so he goes straight there and he waits for me at the door. Then I open the door, he goes out, he usually gets a drink of water, and then we go outside. And he does his business. I let him run around, I let him play a little bit, and then I call him to me, I ask him to sit, and then I put the leash on. The reason I put the leash on there is I want to be able to control him on the way into the house. I don't want him running around or blowing me off, so I put the leash on after he's done going to the bathroom and running around and have some playtime. Then I put the leash on. Now, this is one other thing to pay attention to. I don't always go straight in the house after I put the leash on, because what happens, a lot of you guys say, you know, the dog won't come to you. You know, you use the same scenarios like this, and you put the dog on the leash, and then what you do is you go right straight back into the house and crate the dog. If you do that every time, do you really think that that puppy's going to want to run to you, knowing that he's going to go inside and his free time is up? No. So sometimes I'll take him for a little walk, sometimes I'll just hang with him and play with him, and sometimes we go straight back in the house. So I never do anything all the time. I'm always mixing things up, you understand what I mean? So let's say at this point, I go back in the house now when we're done outside. I put him back in his crate, I prepare his food. I feed him while I open his crate. You guys saw me what I do when I feed him. I don't do that every time I feed him. So he's not working and interacting with me every time I feed him. So again, I don't do anything all the time. I'm always changing things up and keeping it fresh and mixing things up, okay? So I feed him. As soon as he's done eating, I tell him kennel up. He goes back in his kennel. Now I take the other two dogs out, Buddy and Luca. Sometimes I feed them first and then take them out. Sometimes I take them out, bring them in, and then feed them. All right, so it varies, whatever I feel like doing that day. Then I go about getting ready for work. We do all that stuff. Before I leave for work, I take Halo out one more time. All right. He doesn't have any free time to run around the house without either a leash on him or he's in his crate, period. He's a 17-week-old puppy, guys. He is never out of my sight. If he's out of my sight, he is in the crate. He doesn't get free time to run around and play. He's a puppy. If he does, he's going to cause problems, period. He's going to have accidents. He's going to chew things and pick things up and destroy things. It's normal. So there is no free time. So if he's hanging with me out of the crate, there's a long line on where I can control him, or he's in his crate, period. Throughout the day, we take him out several times a day. Training sessions are very short, you know, nothing planned. A couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there. Sometimes we'll work on the basic things like come, sit, down, and place, but it may be 2 minutes worth of training. You know, we'll do a lot of playing, and we'll just hang out with them. Socialization. Many people feel, well, I got to socialize my puppy. So they take that dog to places and get him around as many people. They introduce him to as many people as possible and as many dogs as possible. I don't do that. Yes, we take our dog to a lot of different places. We expose him to a lot of things. We expose him to people and dogs, but on a very limited basis, okay? He's met different dogs before, but under my control. He doesn't need to meet and play and socialize with every dog he sees. And the same thing with people. I want him to be around people a lot, but I want him to be very neutral, you know. So just the other day, I told some of the kids in the neighborhood, I said, hey guys, listen, I need you to help me train Halo. So what I need you to do is when you see him outside and he's off leash, I need you to ignore him. And they were devastated. They're like, well, why? Why can't we play with him? And I said, here's the reason, guys. He already sits there and waits for the kids to get off the school bus. If you have a puppy, every time someone sees him, you know, they get the puppy voice, they get him excited, they're crazy, they're playing with him, they're worked up. What do you think that dog's going to do when he's a year old? He's going to see people and he's going to want to run up and greet everyone. And you can't have that. So you want to have the dog's attention at all times. Of course you want him to be social with people, but you don't have to have people physically interacting with him, because what you do is you take a good risk at someone doing something stupid to really mess that dog up a little bit. You know, these puppies, they go through these fear periods where all of a sudden they're scared of things, or you know, certain things kind of freak them out. And you have someone that does something stupid. Let's face it, there's a lot of people out there that do a lot of stupid things when it comes to dogs. You know, I get the question all the time, hey, how should I approach a dog? Well, approach them like I do. You don't approach dogs, period. Leave the freaking dogs alone. You know, if the dogs really want to interact with you, and I'm not talking about puppies, I'm talking about dogs, they'll let you know, you know, but you take a lot of risk there. So I try to limit it. I was a little lax with it in the beginning, so I even had to tell my family, guys, you gotta cut it off a little bit. I know everybody wants to play with him, he's a cute puppy, but you know, for me, I just can't have that. And now the things I'm telling you what I do. I'm not telling you this is what you have to do, it's a must. People ask, what do you do with your dogs? They see I have very well-behaved dogs and very social dogs, so they want to know. I know, I've been there. I've done the same thing. I've always wondered too. So these are the things I do. And, you know, we do this daily. Several times a day, I take him out a lot, you know. He's going to sleep in his crate until he is 1 year old, no matter how well trained he is. And then, you know, my rule of thumb is they're not left loose in the home without us being there until they're 2 years old. Sometimes it even takes a little longer depending on the type of dog, but those are guidelines that I've followed for a very long time and work very well. So you guys ask, do you, crate your dogs at night? Do you crate your dogs when you're home? No. What's the purpose of having a dog if they spend their life in a crate? I put a lot of work in for the first 2 years so I could have a very well-behaved, self-sufficient dog. So once we hit about 2 years old, the dogs are free in the house. We don't have problems, ever. Our dogs have never destroyed anything. We don't come home to the garbage knocked over, but it's because of the work we put in when they're young, and it goes a long way. I do these workshops, guys. I see, a lot of clients, and what I'm seeing is so many messed up dogs. I'm seeing people that compete at a high level in different dog sports, but yet their dogs are a basket case. There's so much anxiety. We create this stuff in the home. So these little things that I do with our dogs, it goes a long way. You have to be able to leave your dog alone. If you're with a puppy 24 hours a day and he follows you from room to room, and then all of a sudden the dog's a year old and you decide, well, I have to leave him now, you can't expect the dog to be okay with that. And that's where a lot of these problems come from. You got to start creating some separation when they're young. So I'll put them in different crates, even in different places. I'll crate them in the garage. I'll crate them in plastic crates, wire crates. I've recently started putting Halo in the big pen, in the garage, because that's going to be a lot scarier to him. It's possible anyway. So what I do when I put him in there, I do it for just a few minutes in the beginning, and I make sure the other dogs are out there with him. So that gives him some comfort. And that's how he learns that he could stay away from us in different places and different scenarios. You have to make the dogs mentally tough at this age. This is when you want to do it. Guys, I promise you, and I'm sure there's plenty of other trainers out there, I get calls every day, people losing their dogs because they can't crate them, they can't leave them uncrated because they destroy everything. They suffer from different forms of anxiety and separation, and it's a horrible thing, and it's very tough to deal with once it gets to that level. So a lot of the training we do with the puppy, it is creating that behavior that we want at this point. All right, the obedience stuff, that's easy. All the bite work stuff, that's easy. That's just a process. That's just a matter of doing a process. So, that's what we do with our puppy right now. I hope this makes it a little clear for you. And it's nothing special, but that's pretty much our daily routine. All right. Oh, and another thing. One last thing. Get your puppy in the car. Go different places. Too many dogs and puppies are scared to death to be in a car. And then when I ask people, I say, well, have you ever been in a car? Yeah, every now and then. Okay, where do you go? And the answer is usually to the vet and to the groomer. Okay, so every time your dog gets in the car, at the end of the trip is someplace that usually causes a lot of stress that they don't like to go. So you have to put your dog in the car when they're young and go to the park and throw a ball, or, just go for a ride and then come back home and be in the car and, give them some food when they're hanging out with you, or give them a toy. Just go for drives. And you can't just put your dog or your puppy in a car and go to the vet and think that every time your dog gets in the car, it's going to be okay. So prepare your puppy for the rest of its life. Okay, you got to prepare them now, guys. You have to do it. You have to make your dogs mentally tough. So you want to expose them to everything that you could possibly think of that an adult dog may encounter in his lifetime. All right? Thanks. One more thing that I forgot that you guys asked me about. You folks with a big, beautiful yard that leave your young dogs, your puppies, in the yard all day. I don't leave my dogs. For one, I don't have a fenced yard. Yeah, I don't want one at this point. I do not leave a puppy or a younger dog in a yard unattended at all. At all. Because they are still going to get into things. Most of them are going to dig. They're going to chew your gutters. They're going to do something. They're going to chew outdoor furniture. So no, your puppy does not need alone time in the backyard. So again, this is just what I do. You do whatever you want with your dogs. But when my dogs are young, especially at the puppy stage, they are never unattended. If they are unattended, they're crated. period. All right? See ya. Oh, I lied. One other thing I forgot. I hope just one other thing. The majority of the time my puppy spends out of the crate, he is off leash. Okay? Off leash. I use the leash when there's a purpose for it. Like I said before, when I put the leash to bring the dog back in the house. If I don't, he's going to go in the house and run around like a lunatic and get into things or not want to go back in the house. Or when I'm training, specific training exercises where the leash is there to be beneficial. But for the most part, my dogs from day one, the majority of the time they're with me out and about, they are off leash. Okay, guys? Too many people, they put the leash on the dog from day one, and before you know it, the dog is 3 months old, 4 months old, 8 months old, and the dog's been on leash forever. And the second he gets off leash, guess what? The dog is gone because it's such a novelty. Being off leash is never a novelty for my dogs, okay? Long before any e-collar work was ever started, or before e-collars were even being used as they are today, my dogs have always been off leash. It should not be a novelty for a dog to be off leash. So get your puppy used to being off leash with you from day one, and then it's never a big issue. Then they're just used to it. It's not a novelty. All right? Hope that's the last thing. Off leash outside, not in the house. You understood that part, right? Because someone's going to say, you said keep a leash on the dog all the time when he's with you in the house. Outside, when you're doing things, hanging with your dog outside. That's what I meant. Man, it's hard to cover everything, folks. Peace.